You walk toward the house, hearing the sounds of laughter and talk as you reach the door and push it open. You sit down and join the game. It's a cheap buy-in, and not many of the other players are very good. The lady fiddling with dice gets good cards, but has no real strategy. The man to your right seems to just hold on to the highest cards he has, regardless of suit or any consideration of matches. The man in gray across from you, though, he's good. He already had the largest pile of coins when you bought in, and while your winnings grow quickly, you can't quite catch him. One by one, the other players leave the table, sometimes with pique or with wry humor, leaving their winnings with you or the man in gray. Finally, it's just you and the man in gray. He looks at you, full of humor, and winks. Last hand? He deals, you draw, and look at your hand. It's good. It's great. The best hand, in fact. A royal straight flush. Spades. Aces high. But the man in gray pushes forward his whole pile. You're not sure exactly how much it is, but it's more than you've got. You can't match that. The man in gray stops you. Now, if you like, I'll let you wager your word. I know you'll be good for it. Just promise you'll pay the debt, however I ask. Yep, 10, jack, queen, king, ace. All spades. The man in gray smiles. All right, then. I'll call.
Well, your luck wasn't so good, was it? That's quite the hand, but not for the game we're playing. I'm afraid you owe me. Your life, sure, but more than that, your labor. You see, this land is built on stories. It's one big story, this country, woven of many small ones. Few of the small ones are strictly true, and the big story is mostly a lie. All the stories and songs and myths and legends start somewhere, with a seed. As they're told and retold and passed around, they grow and change to become the stories we know. To pay your debt to me, you'll be carrying stories, finding the seeds first and then spreading them, telling them onwards so they can begin gaining strength. This is no light task. Stories are heavy. Most of the stories you'll find will be small seeds. They They might be true, but they'll grow wild and unbelievable with the telling. The more important stories are the true ones, the ones people will tell you about their own lives. Those often get lost in the weaves of the big story. The more true stories you can find and tell, the more you can weave that truth into the big story. Tarnish it a bit perhaps, but isn't a dingy and battered truth better than a shining lie? Now, go ahead. You tell me a story. I'll trade you some information about your task. Travel? That's your job. Wander from place to place, gather those stories and spread them. People get bored hearing the same stories over and over, but an old cliché in one state might be a rip-roaring new yarn in another. You sometimes have to make choices about what kind of story you're finding. Is it a love story or a tragedy? Don't gather too many of one kind, though. This grand story needs variety. Your deepest desires, your greatest wish, heaven? Big Rock Candy Mountain, El Dorado, the Promised Land, that place just over the ridge where they all say that the water tastes just like the sweetest wine. Well, I don't know where that is. It's supposed to be somewhere in this country. Ask the people you meet. They're all searching for the same thing. It's just luck. Funny how bad luck seems to follow the folks who already have problems aplenty. Well, try your luck out there in this country. See how the dice treat you. It's not all bad. You'll have to work hard. But I'll give you the gift for seeing the true shapes of people. Not many who can do that. I'll strip away your flesh to make the journey easier, but still you'll feel pain, hunger, weariness, thirst, and despair. They're all part of stories, a part not often told. And death, yes, but don't worry. As long as your task remains, you come back. Go on your way, Seeker. Maybe we'll meet again, or maybe not. Either way, it'll be an experience for you. I'm jealous in some ways. I hope you find what you're looking for.
ransacked. There's furniture piled in the front yard, ammunition heaped under the mailbox, and a crowd of clean-cut men ripping apart a car in the driveway. The two heavily armed, mud-caked women leaning over the porch railing share the same bored grin. One shouts at you, "Lend a couple innocent gals a cigarette?" You are about to hand her a smoke when those men draw pistols and shove you hard into the dirt. "You know these girls?" they demand. Once they've dumped your bag out into the road, they decide you're harmless. "If you were selling booze too, you'd have a lot more cash," sneers one. On the porch behind him, the two bootleggers are fingering their empty rifles, grinning in disappointment.
Well, I got no companion except the wind and the sea. And when I'm cold and empty, they're the ones who'll bury me. Well, I'm gonna cast my stones o'er the waters of this land, and by and by I'll see them far and long. 'Cause when the night come down for to take me hand in hand, this will be my tale, my vagrant song. This will be my tale, my vagrant song.
Off the road and into the woods, you can't help but come across this package by the old tree tied to a sturdy stick. The cloth wrapping conceals, though not particularly well, something large and softly unsettled. Little eyes blink back at you from inside the bundle. The shape gives a start. "Please don't tell my pa that I'm in here," it says in a small voice.
Pa doesn't want to live with us anymore, but I want to go with him. Don't tell him, please. I'm hiding.
You tell the boy you'll keep his secret. You don't see his father anywhere. You don't see another soul for miles. Come every year, you know. The old man is sitting at the edge of a rotting old pier, crooked legs dangling over the water. He watches a pair of seagulls preen and groom each other on a rock just off the shore. Just when the fishing is going to be good. He taps great, black, thick globs of spent tobacco out of a huge ceramic pipe. I got another year, I guess. Another year of this town being here, he replies, letting a grin spread across his face. If the seagulls came, that means enough fish to keep it in place. Walks the small town square with the poise of Betty Davis. A confident stride and inimitable mannerisms elevating the sidewalk into a plush Hollywood carpet. And wrapped around her neck, a yellow velvet ribbon, bright as an ocean sunrise. You question a well-dressed man parked outside an oyster house. Prudish woman. I took her on a fine date, and she didn't remove so much as a ribbon. Excuse me, can you step back from the coupe? That's the spirit. You decide to seek a second opinion. You talk with a waitress smoking outside a diner. Something funny about her. Just showed up one day. Doesn't work, doesn't live anywhere far as I know. Just around. Myself, I'd love to know who made all her beautiful clothes. You ask the woman if you may join her at a public bench. You may. Lovely outside, isn't it? Her eyes are a beautiful shade of brown. Beneath the yellow ribbon, a thick, fibrous scar wraps around her throat. Weather like this, it reminds me of Paris. You can see storm clouds on the horizon, and you don't relish the thought of being caught wandering this rocky seaside road in the rain. Fortunately, you find the lighthouse door open, with a daunting staircase before you. At the top of an ornate wrought iron spiral, you're breathless and feeling the strain on your knees. Rain already batters the walls outside. You can only knock on a heavy wooden door leading into the upper level. Muffled voices and light seep in beneath the door. Looks like we got a visitor. Sounds like a man's voice, deep and rough. Well, behave yourself. I'll open the door. Another man, this one with a higher, more sonorous voice. I always behave myself. He feigns indignation, but his tone betrays affection instead. After a moment, the door unlatches from the inside and opens. The man before you is tall and muscular, with a hint of a paunch beneath his wide chest. The heavy iron knob on the door looks nearly dainty in his huge hand.
Didn't want to be out in this rain, did you? Come in.
Despite the rough exterior, this room looks like a well-appointed parlor. There's a rug on the well-trod wooden floor and an enormously plush couch. And sat upon it is a stocky fellow grinning through a great hazel-colored beard. "Tea?" he offers, hoisting a teapot.
Oh, we manage.
The tall one sits on the sofa, casually wrapping an arm around the other lighthouse keeper.
The quiet suits us just fine.
He needs his quiet time. He's a writer. The tall one grunts.
I dabble. But you must have some good stories from the road.
You wake up the next morning on their old sofa, still warm from an excess of tea. And cakes? There might have been little cakes. Prodigious snoring rumbles in from the floor above you, and you quietly take your leave. A dusty truck and a man on horseback pull up next to one another in front of the grocer. Suddenly, the driver and the rider, two wiry old men with identical haircuts, start shrieking at one another. The man with the truck leaps into the street.
Brother!
He shouts. The one on the horse tumbles out of his saddle.
Brother!
He screams. They embrace in the road.
30 years!
Hollers the driver. The rider, tears streaming down over his face, corrects him.
No! 32!
Everyone here is watching these two older men cry and hug one another in the middle of Main Street. Cars and wagons are backing up. People are yelling.
Take a photo of us!
The driver begs you. Starts hauling a tripod out of the bed of his truck. The long-lost brothers pose in front of traffic, cry snot pouring out of their noses. As angry passerby wave you out of the road, each brother presses a coin into your hand. When the traffic disperses, you realize they overpaid you quite a shocking amount. This city is like no other you've been to. Crooked streets splay out in a maze of narrow passages, no two alike. Soon, you find yourself in twilight, utterly lost. Bright light crests around one corner, a car approaching. Unable to afford rescue, you keep walking. The asphalt turns to crooked cobblestones that threaten to wrench your ankle out of place. Was this always a moonless night? The stars multiply, each one looking like a pinprick through which light is exiting the terrestrial world. It's hard finding your way through in pitch darkness. You go by touch and sound, feeling the scale of the streets by the echoing of your footsteps, fingers tracing the rough surface of the buildings. And then, a rumble of noise in the distance. You quiet yourself, suddenly fearful. The clear sky tells you it's not thunder, but cannon fire. The city comes alive with fires and shouting. You find yourself trampled by a mob of men in thick brown coats, a phalanx of bayonets advancing up the street. When you come to, there's no sign of the commotion, the war that you were just caught in. The comically shrill honk of a Model A running up the road startles you, and you crawl toward the sidewalk. Above, the sky is a sharp, cold, cloudless blue.
Well, I'm gonna scrawl my name on the bare bones of the earth. I'm gonna dig my heels into the ground. 'Cause when that ferryman come for to tally up my worth,
The women are oblivious to your approach. Their eyes are shut. Their touch, where they hold hands, is gentle. They speak in low tones. One stifles a burst of laughter, but it brings a smile to their faces.
Sorry.
Says the one who laughed.
Don't be.
Another assures her. They don't look up. The branch snaps beneath you. The youngest jerks her eyes open and snatches her hands free from the circle.
It's all right. He isn't coming back.
Soothes the eldest. She turns to you.
You could join us if you've got something you're grateful for.
Your words go unremarked. The youngest, holding your right hand, takes her turn.
And we give thanks for those who left, who we wanted gone, for the skills to thrive without them, and for the companions who make the effort joyful.
Your hands are released. The ceremony is over.
well, I'm gonna cast my stones.
Hey there, stranger. You're welcome to enjoy this fire with me, if you're respectful, that is. This here is my spot, and I ain't inclined to share it with any bad characters. You can call me Quinn. These here are my venturing companions. Kaz is the big un, and the one with the spots is Flip. I usually beat my way on the rails, but the road news said this town was fat and the weather was fine. So I'm taking in the sights and seeing what I can drum up. Hey, tell me one of those exciting stories. I don't get too much out of tales that are so cheerful. Not enough excitement for me. Freedom. Well, teacher used to talk about freedom like America was eat up with it. But the tramping kind seems to be just about the only real freedom still in supply. Ain't no freedom from an empty stomach or bad weather, unless you're rich. Hey, tell me a funny story. You seem like you still got a sense of humor. Not sure I quite follow that one. Authority, bosses and such. I ain't nobody's little Angelina, if that's what you're asking. I take care of myself and my dogs. I don't need no jocker looking out for me. So if you're offering, don't. Shoot, I thought I told you to be respectful. You want to keep enjoying my spot or not? Think about that. Hey, do you got any really thrilling stories to tell? What's the use in telling sweet, happy tales if in they make you snooze? What's my future look like? I ain't looking for a traveling companion, if that's what you mean. I do fine by myself, so just stick to minding your own. You got any happy stories? Sometimes I need a tale like that just to remind me it's not all depressed out there. My family. There ain't no way I'm gonna start jaw-flapping about those bastards. Judases, the lot of them. Enough said. I want to hear a story about ghosts or murderers or something. Scary stuff. You spin a good yarn. I was shivering there for a little bit. Well, I don't know a whole lot about the past, but they say there's an Injun grave round these parts. Say it's haunted and full up with angry spirits. I used to love hearing stories of cowboys and Injuns fighting it up. Would swap tales with the youngins. But, well, I suppose if someone shot me, I'd be pretty vengeful too. Oh, heck, the night's over already. I sure enjoyed talking to you, but I gotta get on. I think I'll see what's happening up the road this way. The tramping life suits me just fine. Every day is a venture. With things being so depressed, folks walk around like it's the end of everything good. But it ain't. Plenty nice things to see if you know where to look.
Waters of this land, and by I'll see them far and long. 'Cause when the night come down for to take me hand in hand, this will be my tale, my vagrant song. This will be my tale. My vagrant song. Ooh, 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 ooh.
color of mill dust. His smile creases his face like folds in dough. He gestures you inside the dilapidated structure and shouts over the sound of driving wheels.
You're welcome to sleep here. You don't want to rest by the river. Not in the evening. Insects.
The man shoves the broken door closed behind you. The mill is warm, and the air is heavy with the powder kicked up by your entrance. You realize how easy it would be to drift off on this pile of sacks to the loud but constant sound of the grinding wheels. Consciousness is elusive. Your limbs throb with a dull fatigue, and your eyes are sticky with dust. The man suddenly grips your legs and drags you toward the millstone.
You do not love my daughter. You will not have her. I will not let you hurt her.
His voice is pained, not angry. Your hand catches a flour sack printed with brightly colored flowers. A puff of flour makes you sneeze, and you wake. The mill is quiet. Its works long disconnected. In your hand is the faded remnant of what might once have been a bag or a piece of a dress. The engines belch black smoke as the ferry churns gray water into froth. A broad-shouldered figure leans out over the rail, eyeing the skyscrapers on the horizon. Nearby, a man and a woman speak in low, urgent voices. He takes her wrist gently. She is weeping softly. The man gives you a once-over as you approach. His newsboy cap is ragged with age.
You look familiar. Did I meet you at Union Square? The demonstration. It got bloody, but I'm used to that after Italy.
He claps a hand to his hat to steady it from the breeze.
When Gramsci was arrested, many of us had to flee. I came into New York, and here I continue our efforts. The workers' voices will be heard.
see him. High up above the black streaks of wires, a lineman, fraying belt holding him to the pole. The damned bird has come to perch on a power line, stare hungrily at the man's soul. He's unsteady. His hands are shaky, and his body sways in the wind. You spot his tool bag next to the pole, worn and frayed, much like the man. A half-gone bottle of cheap rye pokes out of it. What's he gonna do? Come down from the pole? You snatch it from his bag in one quick motion and walk away. "Hey!" he starts, but whatever he's about to say slips into a slurred whine as his belt snaps. His body plummets, his limbs go slack with the understanding of what is happening to him. He tumbles into the tall, dry grass by the side of the road with a muffled noise. All you hear is the call of the whippoorwill. Eager, loud, thankful. The stream is a clear, reflective shade of blue, unusual in this region where bog iron colors the river's brown. Across the way, a goat with great leather wings laps up the water, its sunken red eyes fixed on your every movement. You now notice the unnatural absence of wildlife. No fish swim in the stream. No birds sing in the trees. The winged goat drinks with a forked tongue, only abstractly concerned with your presence. Over the hill, a scorched one-room house lies abandoned, 2 of its 4 walls in ruins. The goat rears up, front hooves curled, and stretches its wings out to their full breadth. The goat opens its mouth and wails, a protracted, shrill sound, indistinguishable from the cry of a human infant. It only begins to stop when you take several steps back. The winged goat doesn't follow. Instead, it lies down inside the burnt house, surrounded by portraits of a large family, glass frames stained brown from smoke. clothes are expensive, but unkempt. A tailored jacket stretched and warped out of its best fit by long days on the road. His thinning frame weighs down the boxcar next to yours.
You got a light, friend?
You offer a match, which bends and nearly snaps as he scratches it against the pitted iron edge of the boxcar.
Thanks,
he mumbles, perching one last cigarette on his lip.
Don't rightly know where I'm going.
You notice how deeply wrinkled his clothes are. It's as though a huge hand plucked him from a high society party and crumpled him up like a sheet of paper.
Don't rightly know how I got going either. They built a railway just past Missy Hudson's estate. Damned racket ruined our soiree. Might have been a few bottles of Armagnac too many when I walked down the tracks to tell them to keep it quiet.
He drags on the cigarette, but you never see him exhale. The edge of summer has turned the ocean choppy and misanthropic, and the skies miserably gray. The boardwalk prophetess lured you into her tent with a promise to read a fortune for free. Seems like business has slowed to a crawl already. Before you lie the instruments of her profession. There's tarot cards, Rider-Waite, but also Marseille for traditionalists, rosary beads and costume jewelry, and of course, the centerpiece, a great glass globe. With practiced theatricality, she goes directly for the crystal ball, letting her eyes unfocus as though she can see a great distance into it. She brings up names, places, asks if you've known someone called John, if you have a relative in Newark. You deflect her cold reading. What could she possibly know of your life? Her frustration with you mounts. When she abruptly stops talking, you think she's simply given up. But no. Your eyes, she says, her voice suddenly drained of the bassy drama that was her stock in trade. You've met him. You've seen him, too. You carry him with you. The words that come out of your mouth are not your own. They seem unwilling or unable to form properly out of a human throat. They're more like snarls, warning noises of a vicious animal. The glass globe shatters. Your vision is hazy, and your body is not your own. You came far to get away from me, the voice lodged inside you says. But this one has a way of wandering. The fortune teller has collapsed, cowering. Consider your debt to me repaid. When you come to your senses, you're lying face down on the rough wood of the boardwalk, sore and weak. An empty patch of wood, cleaner than the surrounding planks, is all that remains of the fortune teller's tent.
Well, I'm gonna...
Stranger, it's good to see you again. You know, I'm gonna see this whole world one day, but for now, I just got my sights set on seeing all 48 of the great U.S. I already seen 10 whole states. That's better than my folks ever done, that's for sure. Plenty of townies and even some tramps treat me like I'm kid simple, but I ain't helpless, and I only act it when I ain't got no better choice, like if I get pinched. I do right fine on my own. Don't need nobody but Cass and Flip. I want a story that scares me. Now I'm older, almost nobody can do it. Give me your best shot. You spin a good yarn. I was shivering there for a little bit. Sadness. Ain't seen no sight sadder than in the city. In the city, they want you to feel like a giant among giants, like you can do anything. But I seen them shanty camps full up with folks who got nothing to eat or do. Cities serve to make the small feel smaller. Hey, do you got any really thrilling stories to tell? I'm hankering for one. I usually like the scary stuff, but your story needed more punch, I think. There you go, talking about family. Like I said, don't need nobody but my dogs. Flip's still a little green. Found him starving and angry by the roadside a few months back. He gets riled now and again, but he don't do nothing too bad if you just wait and let him get it out of his system. He's good to have around most times, and Cass sure seems to enjoy the company. I want to hear one of them venturing tales. Got any? That was a chuckle to be sure, but do you know anything more lively? Being trapped, caged. You think beggardom is a prison? No, stranger, beggardom is freedom. Responsibility is the real trap, wound tight like an old spring. Pride and pretending will bleed folk dry, and then when there ain't nothing left to be proud of, when they can't pretend no more, they'll unwind. Hey, tell me one of those exciting stories. Well, that sure was a downer. Give me a good venture tale instead any day. Change ain't coming, stranger. It's already here, so they say. Got a whole country tied together with rails and roads and still can't feed everybody. Between you and me, I think that ain't ever gonna change. Can or can't got nothing to do with it. Hey, tell me one of those exciting stories. What's the use in telling sweet, happy tales if in they make you snooze? Freedom? Well, that's what them trains have come to mean to me. Freedom. Crossing a country wider than imagination. Well, sun's coming up, so I've got to get ready to go. Thanks for the tales, friend. Where you heading next? Decided yet? Maybe our paths will cross. I'm going up the road this way myself. Hope I'll see something fun. I generally do, you know. There's interesting things to see everywhere if you keep your eyes open.